Hello guys, my name is Patrick. Patrick Lewis here from Chicago, Illinois. I own a hair salon called Edit Salon. And I'm gonna be here working on the longest haircut from the London Calling collection. A little bit about myself. I've been doing hair for about 20 years. And you know what, I always wanted to do a lot of men's hair just because I felt like there's such a craft to it and there's such a different mindset to when you're doing men's hair versus women's hair. There's a lot more linear shapes, a lot more additive negative space. And I think like when you truly kind of possess that craft, it just helps all the other areas. Like I said, I'm a hairdresser. So a lot of these shapes that we're working on, I do a lot of these type of haircuts in the salon. And I think when it comes to working with longer hair, the thing that I think that people need to focus most on is balance and texture. There's a framework, you know, we obviously want to work on more leaner shapes, you know, as long as we're keeping it long. Like in this particular collection, you're going to notice a little bit more of like, you know, harder perimeters, but that doesn't mean like in the interior haircut where we're going to start to lean it out. So there's going to be a little bit of everything in this haircut. It was cool when this idea first came out. When it comes to REUZEL, we'd always kind of been looked at as more like a barbering line for obvious reasons. Barbering is our heritage. But we kind of started realizing after a while, we've been left out of a lot of the conversations when it comes to men's hair. People didn't kind of associate us with any kind of longer hair. It was only just a couple different specific type of haircuts. So when the London Calling collection came out, that was really a chance for us to kind of showcase what our products can actually do and obviously evolve us into more of a men's focused line. So like I said, like there's nothing that our products cannot do today. It was great when I was invited to help out with the process. I was there to help just kind of take notes of like how they're going to break down the 3 haircuts that they were doing. And it was really kind of cool to just step inside another person's creative space. Bertus, you know, he was just firing on all cylinders there. I mean, it was like, you know, it's kind of cool to see the method to the madness behind it. You know, it's just like, but the inception was, you know, it's just like I said, we're going to work more with length. We're going to work with natural fall and texture. But at the same point in time, first we need to get in our foundation. And then we can kind of like jump into the other areas. With this particular haircut, we do have a London Calling foundation. There's going to be different sections. So when I talk today about our sections, you're going to kind of notice this is our template for all of our haircuts, for all 3 of the haircuts. Section 1, 2 is on the top, 3s are on the side, and 4 is in the back. So when you see me kind of going through each section, when I'm working on the mannequin head, you'll kind of be able to follow along a little bit easier. All right, to kind of start with this haircut, I did start them out with some grooming or with the spray grooming tonic, just because I needed a little bit of a working product to work in there. It's gonna have low hold, low shine, but like I said, there's this product you can use in multiple different ways. We do have it in a spray now just to make it a little bit easier to work with. It's maybe a little bit lighter than the original one, but like I said, like it's a great product. Like I said, like you can use it just wet to let it air dry, to give it like a little bit more like a natural feel to it, or it's also a great thermal styler as well. So like when you hit it with a blow dryer, it'll activate it a little bit more and it'll give you a really nice base and foundation. When I'm also talking about products today, I think it's important to kind of just, like I said, like I'm going to use multiple products here. Like I said, to kind of just touch base, like I said, I'm also a hairdresser. I'm not just selling hairspray to somebody. I'm selling them a product to kind of give them a little bit of a foundation. Same thing when it comes to men. You know, it's just like guys are, you know, paying attention to their hair more now. You know, it's just like, and the thing that I've learned most is with my experience when I'm doing hair is there's one thing that every single client comes in here wants to do. They want to know how to do their hair better, period. It doesn't matter who you are, that's what they want. So I think like that is our bridge to start talking to them about product, just educating them. And like I said, like that's where I think like REUZEL is just a great line to kind of work with because it's not some massive line. You know, it's just like there's specific areas for each product. You know, it's just like, and then like think like once you know how to use them, then you'll kind of just go in your own creative direction and kind of find like which way you want to use. Now, we're going to start with this haircut. We're going to start in the back. And we're going to comb down to a natural fall. Like I said, this is going to be the longest of the haircuts that we do. So I'm going to be starting in section 4. And I'm going to tilt them down. I'm going to use the wider teeth of my comb just to kind of just imagine like if he had a lot of texture, so I'm not, you know, manipulating it too much. But when I'm combing it down, I'm always going to be combing from the base. I'm not kind of grabbing it right down in the middle. I'm always combing from the base, comb straight down, and imagine the bottom of the mannequin head is their shoulders. That's going to be about where I'm cutting it to. So cut down straight across. So now this mannequin head has got a whole lot of texture to it. And I think that's kind of one of the things when it comes to dealing with texture is knowing how to take texture out and then knowing how to put it back in. So right now, like I said, I'm dealing with a little bit more of a blunt line, and then I can know how to, like, that's how you control texture. You got to know like how to take it out and when to put it back in. And with this particular haircut, like I said, like we're going to be working on a lot more harder perimeters. I can go back in and I can add my texture when I want, but like I said, you need to control it. Now that I have my length, this is going to be my guide for my baseline. So now I'm going to turn it this way. So you can see how this section will be combed straight up. Again, coming from the base. Always work in very, very clean sections. I feel like when it comes to hair, that's really kind of just the basis of it all. If you can comb hair good and if you can section good, everything, you know, you can pretty much cut anything else. After this, I'm just cutting straight lines. But it's really all about your sectioning and your elevation. So comb straight up. You can see, using my length as my guide for my baseline. And you're gonna understand, like, if you followed us for a while, our baseline is pretty much the connection through all of our haircuts. All of our haircuts, you know, have the same theme, is that like we have a baseline that kind of is like our foundation for our haircut. Now, what we're doing right now is like when I'm lifting it up and I'm cutting in my baseline, I'm taking it and I'm leaning the shape out. Like when it comes to men's hair, the thing that I've always learned is it's like, what makes it not masculine is when it's round. One of those key areas that you need to focus on when you're working on men's hair when it's longer is the hair right behind the ear. If this is round in any way, shape, or form, then it just looks like a bob. It doesn't look tough. It doesn't look cool. And I feel like, little personal note, something that I've always kind of hung to is it's like, whenever it comes to doing men's hair, if I'm ever just confused, if I'm ever like not sure, I need to kind of help find some direction, you need to find the anger in a men's haircut, period. Anybody can, I think, can understand that. It means like, you know, like when you're sitting here and if you're just randomly just cutting through hair, you know, it's like, are you, you know, where's your inspiration drawing from? So I got my baseline in there. Now I'm gonna do the other side. So hopefully I can comb it from this way and I'll cut it from the back so you guys can see it a little bit easier. And I've got two guides now. I got my length from the bottom and I got my baseline from the other side of section 4. I'll comb this straight up. There's my guide. And like I said, you can see like this hair's got a lot of texture in it. So I don't really want to be adding any more just yet. I want to kind of just get my foundation in there and then we'll go to it. Up and around. There's my baseline. In a little bit, I will bring in Herb, my bulldog, who's sitting right to my right. You didn't want to miss this opportunity to see you guys. All right, there is the back for now. Cool. I'm going to jump towards the front. Now I'm working in section 1. Personally, I think I would just call it the front or the fringe. I would never really say a bang on a guy. There's just some, you know, you got to change your terminology up when you're talking to guys. Like I never say soft or wispy or flippy. You know, it's just like you kind of just got to be a little bit more, you know, deliberate with your language. So my first section, or my section now, section 1, like I said, is the front. I'm going to subsection it right in the middle there. Again, working from clean sections. Let's just get that out of the way. And now the guide to length here is going to be the bridge of the nose. Again, comb from my base. Use wide teeth of the comb just because like you could have some colics in there. You could have some, you know, discrepancies in the hairline. So like I said, like I don't want to like manipulate it too much. I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to cut to the base of the nose, straight across. Do the other side. My first time working with this mannequin head. It's got a nice head of gray hair. Drop my next section. And your section one, again, like your front, it's pretty much going to be from recession to recession to just below the top of the head, just right before it starts, you know, the bend stops. So again, pull it straight down. You know, I'm still doing loose tension, but it's still consistent because I'm combing from the base. Go straight across. Now, there's times that right now I'm cutting a blunt line here, mainly because I want this to be a focal point in the haircut. Curtis, can you put up that the head sheet of the London Calling so you can kind of take a look at the bang or the front? Sorry. The reason why I want to point this out is because it's like I said, I want this to be a focal point. And when it comes to men's hair, there's time, it's like in any type of hair, if there's a hard line, our eye is naturally going to be drawn to it, right? Because like that's what we want it to be. Other times we don't want that to be happen is it's like if you're ever doing like a taper and you see a hard blunt line on that, that's not what I want to be focusing on. But when you cut a hard blunt line on a guy's neckline, all of a sudden, you know, that's just what your eye's drawn to. And it just kind of just takes away from the rest of the silhouette. So, but on this particular, you know, idea is it's like I want the front to be really nice and strong. So now we're going to move into section 3 on the sides. Okay. Get this out of here. I'm going to take diagonal back sections, pretty much mirroring the hairline. And you can, I'm going to use low elevation towards the face. And you can pretty much kind of cut in whatever angle you want here. But you need to keep in mind the guide to length is going to be behind the ear. So I'm going to probably start something maybe just below the jawline. Right there. Kind of having a roadmap to where my baseline or my guide is in the back. Next section is going to mirror my first section. Again, pull forward. It'll work. Slight diagonal, low elevation. Now I'm going to grab the rest of it, whatever can come to. Oops. You can see I'm connecting right behind the ear there. Whenever you're kind of focusing, whenever you're doing any kind of men's hair, there's certain areas that you need to pay attention to, especially if you're doing longer hair. You need to pay attention to the hairline. Because like if this is really, really weak, you know, you want to make sure you're leaving a harder perimeter just to kind of just make sure that this thing can grow out well, because it has to maintain the whole time. If it looks weak and it just starts flipping out, you know, it's just like there's not like that toughness in the haircut. There's not that good texture in the hair. You know, like I always feel like when it comes to men's hair, you need to have the right amount of wrong to make it look kind of cool. So it's not just like perfectly coiffed hair. Now,
we got a couple questions for you, buddy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Scott Sales says it looked like you angled the sides. What was that purpose?
I'm just working on the face framing now.
And how is that baseline different than the first link that was cut?
I haven't cut the baseline yet on the sides. I will connect the baselines once I'm finished with my face framing. I'm just working on perimeter work right now before we start getting into any kind of layering. So, but this is all just kind of like your creative feel. Like you can kind of like, if you want, you can maybe kind of connect it at the top, or you can kind of leave it a little bit longer. And this one, I'm kind of just meeting right in the middle.
Awesome. And guys, there is a little bit of a delay. So when I see your comments and get the questions to Patrick, there's about a 30-second delay. So I'll try and get to your questions as fast as I possibly can. Thanks, Patrick. You're doing a great job there, buddy.
Thanks, man. So this side, I'm going to leave probably just a smidge longer at first, just to make sure I don't all of a sudden cut it too short and mess up the other side. So let me check that real quick. Grab from both same parts. Yep, it's just a little bit longer. But it's almost kind of like whenever we're working on any of our like our executive contours, whenever we're working on the baseline, like we'll cut in our first side. And when we're teaching on the other side, we'll always say like leave it just like a 1/4 of an inch longer, because like if you try to go right at it, you all of a sudden somehow it just magically you cut it just a little bit too short. So I feel like you always kind of need to give yourself that little extra just room, you know, for error. Because it's easier to correct just the one side than cutting it too short, and also then you got to go back in and recut both sides again. All right, let me check that one more time. It's kind of like anything else. It's like you just need to always just spend extra time just checking your first couple sections, because that's pretty much your roadmap for the rest of the haircut, or for the rest of your section, at least, that you're cutting. A little bit more. Good. Next section, same idea. We're going to do a slight diagonal back. Again, low tension, low elevation, 45-degree angle. Cutting from the bottom up. And you want to make sure you can see your guide underneath the section you're coming from. If you can't, that means your section is too big. Now I'll grab the rest, pull that forward. Again, now I have two guides. I got my guide from underneath, and I got my guide right behind the ear. Pull that forward. There. And there. Cool. Now, what we're going to do is now we got our length and we got our perimeters cut in, but now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and marry section 3 and section 4's baseline. So I'm going to, flip this around. Pulling it straight up. There's my guide. This is where, like I said, we are leaning our shape out. Straight up. Cool. Go to the other side. Pulling straight up, marrying, starting from my guide from the back. Oops. The section, or the front of section 4. And in the back of section 3 is where I'm going to marry the baselines. Right there. There's my guide. Straight forward, straight up. Here it is. Pull it up. All right.
Patrick, we got another question for you, buddy.
Yeah, please.
Did you let the bottom fall out so you didn't cut the hole at the ear? And that was David Osborne, by the way.
You know what? Yeah, I didn't let the bottom fall out just because I kind of having a little bit of muscle memory of doing this haircut. I knew that it wouldn't necessarily meet. Now, the hair behind the ear, you always do need to leave a little bit of extra length or maybe a little bit of extra weight. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive of like what I said, like, you know, like you want to make sure you kind of like collapse this in a little bit, but you do need to make sure that you leave it strong enough because like this is the bridge. This section right here, you know, the hairline is 3 inches lower than it is to the ear. So like this bridge, this jump, you know, all of a sudden it's like, if you don't leave that little extra weight in there, all of a sudden you could cut a massive hole in there. Like I said, we're not doing that. It's like I said, it's a little bit of a fail safe just because it's like, I know where my baseline is. I know that this length down here, you know, it's like, it will pretty much anything from like an inch above the hairline is what's going to reach and everything else will pretty much fall out. So.
Awesome, David. I hope we were able to answer your question there, buddy. Thank you for responding in the comments. Guys, if you want to have any questions, don't be scared. Ask in the comments. There is a 30-second delay, but I will get your questions answered if you have any questions for you. We're here to provide you fabulous and awesome education today.
Yep. All right. Now, like I said, let's just kind of just do a quick recap on this. We've cut in section 4. We've cut in our length. We lifted that up, straight up to use our length from our base, our guide for our baseline is the length that we cut. Move to the front, cut the front down to the bridge of the nose. I always like to the bridge of the nose because it's naturally going to kind of just jump up a little bit. And I always feel like hair in the eyes is always pretty cool. You know, if you're the coolest person at the party, doesn't matter who sees you or if you see anybody. Next, once you cut that in, then we go to the side. We do low elevation, diagonal for the diagonal back sections, and we'll cut in our angle. Pretty much, like I said, you can start it wherever you want, but you want to make sure you leave it to, you know, your guide to length is the hair just right below, right behind the ear. Then we will lift that up and marry sections 3 and 4, and we'll continue our baseline from the back of, or from section 4. We'll cut that straight forward. So you can kind of see, I'll just grab a little bit of like what that baseline actually is. If I pull that straight up, you'll see your line cut straight in there. Cool.
Awesome, Patrick. I got another question for you.
Yeah, please go.
Bobby Thompson, what advice do you have for men with longer hair and their facial hair? Is there a recommended length of preferred grooming style that matches the texture of the cut? And what are your thoughts on this?
You know what? I feel like anything kind of goes right now. I mean, I'm just going to go off of my personal style. I don't really like anything too clean. You know, like if I say like this perfect long haircut and this perfectly groomed beard, sure, that's your thing. But my own personal style is like, I think like when it comes to like any kind of like a hairline, let's just say like a beard, you know, it's just like, I feel like it needs to have like a little bit more of like a natural line if you got longer hair. I feel like if you're dealing with like longer hair on guys, and let's just say we're talking sideburns, like if their hair's a little bit shorter, a sideburn can be a little bit shorter. If their hair's a little bit longer, the sideburn I think can be a little bit longer. I feel like if you're looking for more of kind of like a timeless feel, the ball of the ear is a good reference point to be like, okay, the top of the ball of the ear is good for shorter hair. If your hair is longer, the bottom of the ear, I think can kind of just keep you a little bit more like on track. I think like when it comes to talking to guys about what they're doing. Was that the question?
I pretty much there,
the
Patrick. Pretty much. I think so, Patrick. Let me know in the comments if he answered your question correctly for me there, bud.
All right.
All right,
now,
Bobby Thompson.
We're working on the top, section 2. What we're going to do right now is we're going to cut a central vertical section back, pretty much where you're seeing this line right here. This is going to be my first section, and I'm going to pull it straight up, but my guide is going to be the back of section 1, which is what's going to be my guide to length. So let's see that right here. So here's section 1. Take a central vertical section all the way back. You have to remember when we're doing this part that You do not want to round the shape at all. So I'm going to pull this straight up. I'm going to grab my guide in the back of section 1. Pull this straight up. There it is. A little bit more.
Bobby said you sure did answer his question. He just wanted to know a preference.
Yep.
Thank you for that question, Bobby.
All right. Now, I'm pretty much going to lift the rest of section 2 up to my guide and cut it nice and square across. So, pull this section up. So, again, right around here, I'm not rounding it out. You're going to just continue cutting on a straight plane.
Patrick, what are your thoughts on using a razor on this cut?
I use a razor on almost all of my men's haircuts. This particular one, like I said, the texture, there's so much texture in here right now. I want to like use my scissors to kind of just strengthen this up. But I use a razor almost on all of my men's longer hair just because I want to give it a little bit more of like a lived in feel. And I think like that's ultimately what makes it kind of cool. You know, it's kind of got a little bit more like a natural lived in feel to it. But like I said, like this has already got, like I said, a lot of texture in it, but I will be going back in and texturizing at the end.
Gotcha. That question was from, I believe it's Yvette.
Cool.
Thanks, Yvette, for that question. Great answer, by the way, Patrick.
Thank you.
And would you say more, I think like, would it be like based on texture too, or actually like final result?
You know what? It's based on texture too, but it's like when you're cutting with scissors and clippers, you're cutting with 2 blades, right? You know, you're cutting 2-dimensionally. And like I said, like that's kind of going to give you a little bit more of like your structure. When I'm working with the razor, it's 1 blade, right? And it's just like, and that way you can kind of cut a little bit more 3-dimensionally, which is you can add texture in while you're cutting it. Like if I'm cutting with, you know, a scissors, like I said, like, yeah, maybe you can kind of slide up, but like if I'm cutting with a razor, I'm just grabbing a random section here, you can kind of just carve around a whole haircut and you can really kind of like add a little bit of extra texture. So you can't do the same thing with, how do I explain that right? A razor will kind of, like I said, automatically kind of give you a little bit more of like lived in shape, like, and it'll kind of just like add a little bit extra texture. You know, like I said, sometimes that's just really what it's going for.
Right, just a little bit more structure. I feel you.
Yeah, yep. I'm gonna go to this side now. Again, work central vertical sections back. Pull that straight up.
Patrick.
Yep.
Jefferson asked, are you not over directing to the center, or are you, or when you're cutting the section number 4?
I'm only on section 2 right now.
All right. I think that was the correct question, right, Jefferson? You are not over directing to the center. Are you when cutting the section 4? Well, for section 4, I believe he might have the sections. We're on section 2 right now, Jefferson.
Correct. Once I'm done with the top, I will go through and I'm going to connect the top to the bottom. So section 2 and section 4, you're going to see like the blend come in at that point. So again, I'm just pulling it straight up.
Jefferson said he meant to. So you're not over direct. You're not
Nope.
over directing to the center, are you, when cutting section number 2?
No. I'm pulling in, I'm going to probably pull each section into the previous. So my first section, sorry. So my very first center section will go straight up. My second section will kind of come into the previous and into the previous a little bit more, just to kind of just maintain a little bit more strength in there. It really kind of depends on their density of the hair. If their hair is really fine, I probably will over direct a little bit more just to maintain a little bit more strength around the round. If their hair is really thick, then yes, I can kind of just like stay true to that section, just because it's like I don't have to worry about maintaining a little bit of extra length or strength around the round.
Gotcha.
Now, you kind of see here.
How was that, Scott? I think we got that one figured out with the beauty of technology today and the delay.
Right.
Thanks, Patrick.
Cool. All right. Next. Now I can pretty much grab the rest of that section. Pull it straight up again. And again, cutting that plane straight across. All right. Now, if you want to go through and check it, which is where you guys will probably see, what you can do is you can kind of go through and cross-check if you want to just see if you got a nice straight across line. This is where you can do a little that to hope to God you didn't mess it up. Let's pull straight up. Yep. Just pull it there. Good. Work our next one. Like I said, I'm just kind of cross-checking it. Straight, straight, straight. Cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to connect the top and the bottom. And I'm going to work in radial sections. I'll probably just start right above the ear here. I'm going to kind of just pivot around the crown. Just hair all over me. I'm sure that there will probably be a little bit of a disconnect in there, and we're going to just kind of just take that corner right off. Just to ensure a blend. Go forward a little bit. Over direct back just a little bit. Now here's a perfect example of like why I would over direct back just a little bit, because like, let's just say that hairline is just a little bit weaker. So it's like I said, like when we're working on the top, if the hair is a little bit finer, I want to over direct in a little bit more towards the middle just to maintain a little bit more strength. When it comes to the side here, like when I start working more towards the front of the hairline, I'm going to over direct it back just a little bit just to maintain a little bit of extra strength. If I need to go back in and take it off or kick it out, I can. But right now, like I said, I want to make sure like, you know, like those are some of the cool spots of the haircut, you know, it's like, and you don't want to make it look weak, especially like in the most focal part of the haircut. So just going to kind of just work around. As so. Now, when it comes to men's hair, the biggest thing that I kind of find is it's just like, it really kind of comes down to product and teaching people how to put product in hair. One thing that I will always do every time, if I'm working on curly hair, if I'm working on, you know, guys with longer hair, doesn't matter. I will almost always go back and re-rinse them personally, because right now, what I've been doing is I've just combed through this texture so much. I've just disrupted it so much that I really can't see exactly what I want to do. I'm gonna probably assume he might not blow dry his hair. So it's like, I need to kind of start introducing that conversation of being like, okay, you're gonna get out of the shower, you know, you're gonna see that texture kind of clump up a little bit more. And you know what product is gonna give me, you know, the most success? You know, it's just like, do I want something that's gonna add a little bit more texture? Do I want something that's gonna help kind of control frizz? Do I need to put in a couple different ones? The nice thing with this, REUZEL came out with almost a whole new line. Like, it's gonna be their fiber line, and it's like they got, you know, new tubes. It's kind of one thing you can kind of think about, like longer hair, generally, you're dealing more with tubes. When you're dealing with shorter hair, usually it's a little bit more like either in a tin or a puck. So we're gonna probably be working a little bit more with like the tubes in his hair. That's kind of where, like I said, also like the London Calling collection came to play, like to kind of introduce some more products, like I said, to work with some longer textures. So, and in his hair, I'm probably gonna be working with the fiber cream, just because it's like, you know, it's got a nice medium hold. It's water soluble, so it'll rinse out really easily. It'll kind of give it a nice lived-in shape. It's pliable, and it's, like I said, it's kind of got a low shine. That's going to be kind of like your point of difference between like the matte styling cream, because the matte styling cream, you know, there's a lot of similarities, except there's no shine in that one. It's got a little bit of a different consistency with it, but like I said, like, you know, you'll kind of play around a little bit. And I think like when it comes to, you know, talking to your guys, like it's all about like, when do you put that product in the hair? You know, it's like I see a lot of guys like once hair starts getting air in it, once it starts kind of getting frizzy, it's hard to control that. So it's like, that's why it's like, I'll get a guy, I'll rinse him out, and I'll come back and like, while his hair's pretty wet, I'll get that product in there just so that frizz and that texture, you know, or whatever the texture may be, it can kind of just soak that product up, and then you won't have any of that frizz in the hair. And longer hair will naturally dry faster. I haven't cut my hair in 8 months, but it's just like I said, like that's the kind of the thing I've learned, like when it comes to hair, just like put product in right while it's just soaking wet. And then like you can use a towel and you can kind of just help absorb some of that moisture while the product's in there. It's a safer way to work. All right, let's kind of just wrap this part up. Still just going around the round of the head, connecting sections 2 and 4. And now on the side here, I'm connecting section 2 and section 3. Always coming from my base. Get the corner off. Now at the front, over direct back just a little bit, just to maintain a little bit of extra strength around the hairline. Okay, now the haircut is in place, okay? How do we want to texturize this haircut? You know, it's like, personally, I feel like one of the areas that I want to get into a little bit is the front. I want to maintain this strong, but I need to break it up just a little bit. And when it comes to texturizing hair, there's really kind of like, to break it down in the simplest form, there's 3 categories. You know, let's kind of just lift this up. This might be a little bit easier to understand. You're going to break it down into 3 sections, okay? The top third is going to be your weight or your bulk reduction. The middle is going to be support, and the bottom is collapse. So right now, to kind of work in a safer direction, I'm just going to kind of focus on this first zone of just kind of bulk removal. When I'm working on the front, I'm going to break this down, and instead of just point cutting it into it there, that way you'll kind of thin the whole thing out at the same time. I don't want to do that. I want to kind of just break it up a little bit more underneath. Kind of see I'm pulling it out. I'm going to kind of just get that bottom just a little bit more so I can maintain a nice strong front. I'm going to work around. Let's get that out of the way. I feel like that's kind of like the thing when it comes to men's hair. That's where people, I think, kind of have their breakdown a little bit of like, you know, they don't really know how to just put texture in men's hair. They don't know how to kind of create space and give it, you know, a little bit more of like a lived-in feel. But a haircut like this, you know, it's like you have your foundation. Like I said, like you know how to kind of like lean your shape out. You know how to like take the weight out on the top. You know what your perimeter is like. Okay, now I got that. Now it's my time to create. You know, like, and this is I think where everybody kind of gets to start going into their own style a little bit more, because you know we're all essentially taught the same thing. We're all kind of taught like how to do a taper. We're all taught about how to, you know, maybe do a pompadour. But like, what are we going to do after our foundation is in? That's going to kind of have our calling card on it. I'm going to go diagonal forward sections. I'm going to kind of break this up just a little bit. Get in there a little bit. I'm not going to really do any slide cutting on the top because I don't want to kind of have it flare out on me a little bit. Again, and the reason why this is also good, doing a diagonal forward section when you're taking your textures, you can kind of see it. What I'm really looking at right now, this is what I'm looking at, is the ends. Like how much space is in there? Is it stronger up? Like, so is it stronger up in here and a little bit weaker down in here? What I need to do then is to kind of just mirror those textures and just balance it out, right? So there's a little bit up in here. Break that down. Kind of work around the back a little bit. Not too much there. Like I said, this hair was already kind of weak when we were doing it. You kind of see it's kind of getting kind of cool. It's leaning out a little bit behind the ear, but there's still that strength in the haircut.
Patrick, we got a question for you.
Yep.
Would you do this cut on a client with curly hair? And if so, what would you do different?
I would texturize it differently. Like when it comes to cutting curly hair, you know what, like I'm not gonna, like how I'll cut curly hair a little bit like differently is like I'll go through each section and I want to give each curl its own individual curl. So like a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just take my section, I'll put it out in my hand like this, and I'll cut into it that way. So I can kind of just give each curl its own curl. I can kind of create a little bit of space in there, and I'll kind of work my way up. When I'm on this side, you're doing it the opposite direction. Let's just kind of grab a random section here. I'll pull it forward this way, and I will cut into it the opposite direction because, you know, curls don't have the same, you know, same direction all the time. So you need to kind of like, you know, curate it a little bit differently. Now it also kind of depends on like when it comes to curl, like, you know, it's going to, product is going to be so massive with that, because when it comes to curly hair, all curls pretty much need the same thing. They need moisture. Now let's just say somebody comes in here and they got some curly hair. Hey, Herbie. This is what I got. If somebody's got, you know, curly hair, but let's just say it's a little bit finer, you know, a great product for that would be grooming cream, because it's lightweight, it'll give you moisture, and it'll give a little bit of definition. And that's kind of one of the biggest things. It's not necessarily just on like what's necessary to cut. The product is what's going to really make this thing successful. Kind of check that back a little bit more. You know what? I think I'm going to break up. See where we're at. I'm still just lift this up.
Scott, I hope we were able to answer your question. Thank you very much. That was a great answer, by the way, Patrick.
Thanks. Break that up just a little bit there. Let's go to this side. Lift it up. I would say personally, when it comes to men's hair, longer hair, I'm a big, big, big fan of the greases. Massive fan. I did a shoot, like we'll say a year and a half ago. It was like 95 degrees outside, and every guy had longer hair than this. And I only brought one product on set. I brought on the REUZEL Green, just because it's like, I feel like I want a little bit of that lived in feel to it. Like if you look at anybody, any kind of rocker out there, anybody who's just kind of got that kind of cool hair, it's just like, you know, that grease is what makes it look kind of cool. You know, it's like, and that was before some of these, you know, the creams had come out. So like, that's what I was working with. But it's like, you know, like if you know how to like really start getting comfortable with products, you can kind of find how to use any product and make it successful. But it really kind of depends on like when you put it in, you know, like, and how you put it in the hair. All right, let's kind of just wrap this up. Forward, diagonal sections forward. Looks there. You can see here, like that's already, you know, got enough space in there. I don't need to get in there. It's just kind of a good way to just kind of go through and check your haircut out. Let's get that out. All right, diagonal forward section. That's already fine. That's fine. Again, this is that bridge. I don't want to like take out too much of that weight. I'm pretty much done, I think, here. I'm just kind of just going through and just checking it. Yep, we are good there. So I'm gonna have to set him here for a second. Let's kind of go over this cut one more time before I start getting product in here.
You know what, Patrick? Before you go over the cut there, man, let's meet Herb.
Herbie. Hey, everybody wants to meet you, bud. Who's this? Right.
Hi, Herb.
I wish I would have just had like a mannequin or a wig to just put on him. He could have been my London calling model, because we're still practicing our social distancing.
Right.
Hey,
he looks like he's practicing social distancing.
Yep. I couldn't find my REUZEL t-shirt, so I was like, I just grabbed a black one and just gave it to him. So
he needs a bigger chair, Patrick.
I know. He needs like a love couch. Just hang out on there. All right. So now,
guys, let us know in the comments if you love Herb or not.
Now I gotta just kind of hide this from him, because if he sees his water bottle, he will flip out. Shit! Sorry. Told you. Here it comes. I know, bud. I know. All right, we're done. Out of the way. Back it up. Come on. Move, move, move. Nothing wrong with having a little bit of a liability on you, right, Bill? Let's help you out there. Put you back up. Oh, God.
How much does he weigh now, Patrick?
Well, he doesn't have his beach body going on right now, so he's probably about 60 pounds. So now let's kind of start getting into our product story here. I'm going to put a little bit more back into this. Like I said, this is the spray grooming tonic. Herb, calm down. It's okay. With a lot of the products you're going to notice in here, we have our T4 blend, right? That's our tonic blend. We're not necessarily really this ingredients-based company, but we do have a responsibility. We do have a responsibility to our clients, obviously, to take care of their scalps and their hair. And what you're going to notice in that complex is going to be horsetail root, nettle leaf, rosemary, and witch hazel. You know, there's a lot of like proteins, amino acids, vitamins. I believe it's like A, B, C, D, and K. Ultimately, like I said, it's to help nourish the hair and the scalp. Calm down, calm down. So in this one, for an example, like your grooming tonic, you're going to have, come on, give me 1 second. Hurry, come on. Intermission, cue the music.
Right. we give Herb the spotlight there. He wanted to tee it on.
Yep.
Sorry, Herb.
Sorry, pal. All right. Let's pull that out a little bit again.
Thank you,
All
Herb.
Right. Yep. So like I said, in the grooming tonic, I'm gonna kind of just spray this down a little bit more again. This is going to have that tonic blend in there as well. There's shea butter in it. There's also argan oil in there. So it's like, what that means is it's like, it's going to give you like a little bit of a natural shine, but it's also got like a heat protectant in there from the argan oil. Next, I'm going to mist this down just a little bit more because like I said, like I want to kind of introduce the idea of like having hair, like once it starts kind of getting really kind of frizzy, it's hard to kind of get that controlled a little bit more. So like I said, like I kind of want to like mist it down just a little bit. I'm just imagining like he's done getting his haircut. I bring him back to the bowl, rinse him out, towel dry him. So now what I'm going to use is the fiber cream. Okay. This, let's use a decent amount. Kind of see it. Again, this is going to be a little bit more pliable than the matte silent paste. You're going to kind of see it's kind of got a little bit of a tacky feel to it. But I'm going to just get it in there. Now you can kind of see like this is a product you can get from roots to ends. But I'm really going to kind of just, I don't want to just throw it in there and start tossing it around. I want to try to control this texture as much as I possibly can. Let's get it in. Nope. Make sure you're getting it in there. Like I said, like once hair kind of gets that kind of cool, chunkier feel to it, I don't want to break that up. That's why like I'll always kind of bring them back and rinse them out a little bit. If you need to, you can put the product in and you can use maybe like your wide teeth or your comb and comb through it a little bit more. But what I'm going to do now is once I kind of got that product in there, comb them out a little bit, tilt them forward a little bit, put it in. I'm going to kind of just, you know, try to get my hands out of it a little bit more. This will kind of help kind of just chunk it up. You can kind of see just the difference from just this area versus the sides. The sides are like a little bit weaker, you know, like the texture's kind of playing all over the place. Let's kind of tilt them this way a little bit. And I'm going to kind of get that right back into it.
Got a question for you, Patrick.
Yep. You can kind of see that kind of like chunking up that texture a little bit more.
That looks awesome, buddy.
Yeah. Same thing on this side.
Leon asked, when would you use surf spray instead of grooming tonic?
Surf spray's got a little bit less hold to it. But I think like, it depends. Like, personally, I think like, if I want to kind of get like a little bit of like an invisible texture in there, that's what I think like the surf tonic is great for. I always kind of pair that with the texture powder. You know, like I think those two just kind of just marry perfectly together. You know, but it's really just like finding your own personal taste with it. You know, like you get a lot of surf tonics out there. Like, you know, ultimately that's really kind of just meant to kind of just build texture in there. But I don't ever want to weigh anything down. So with this, like the reason why a grooming tonic, the spray tonic versus, you know, the surf tonic, there's just a little bit more hold in that one. So that's personally what I wanted to work with. So kind of scrunch that just a little bit.
Thank you, Leon, for that question.
Yep. Now let's just say, you know, like it's, you know, you do need to put a dryer on this. You can kind of start to see this shaping up just a little bit. Wish we can kind of air dry it fast, but here's kind of a quick way to do it. If you have a blow dryer, you can just kind of just grab kind of just big sections. And I'm not looking to blow dry this thing completely dry. I'm almost looking to kind of just set it a little bit. Low speed because I don't want to break up this texture. I kind of just hold it. Like that. I'm kind of just cupping it right in my hand so it doesn't blow all over the place. So you can kind of start to see this side chunk up a little bit more. That's what I want. Kind of get this side a little bit. Hold it in my hand. And it's a simple trick to just kind of show your clients. Because like, I'm not trying to diffuse the hair like I said. I'm trying to just kind of just set it just a little bit. The product's going to do the rest. Just spin it this way. And we're just leave it at that. Like I said, just for the hell of it, my favorite product. I put it on my hair today. This is what I use. I said I kind of like it, just like, I feel like when you put, you know, the pink, you know, this is going to be like a medium shine, heavy hold, but it's like when I put it in hair, I kind of just mash it on. And you got to explain to people, like when you're using it, it's just going to take like a little bit to absorb into it. It's almost kind of like when you put a product in somebody's hair and you're like, ah, does it look cool? Does it not? And then like by the time they're walking out the door, it looks twice as cool just because it's given that second for it to kind of just get a little bit of a lived in feel to it. That's what grease can kind of do. Cool. All right. That is our London calling haircut. Again, just to break it down, start in the back, section 4, cut your perimeter in. Use your perimeter as your guide for your baseline from the top of section 4. We're going to go into section 1, where our fringe, cut it to the base of the nose, low tension. Go to section 3, do your face frame, slight diagonal back sections using guide to length right behind the ear. Then you're going to marry sections 3 and 4. You're going to lift that up, cut in your baseline. Then you're going to go to the top. You're going to grab a center back section using the back of the fringe as your guide. You're going to cut a straight line back. Make sure you don't round it out. Then you're going to kind of just lift up the rest of it, pull straight up, cut a straight across line. Then I'm going to work in through, you know, radial sections around the head and marry the top to the bottom. Then introduce my product. Like I said, what I'll probably do is post a photograph maybe in about 20 minutes, just to kind of just show a little bit more of what this cut will finish with. So cool. All right.
Looks really awesome, Patrick. And then,
cool.
Yeah, let me pull up. I think I have your Instagram here, my friend. Hold on.
Nice.
So everybody can see that photo.
Yeah, please, you guys, any questions right now when it comes to hair? Like, throw them up there. I mean, that's kind of the one nice thing with all this time right now. You know, it's just like we've really gotten to kind of connect with our industries more than we